Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. I have a window, so that's a new thing. That window was always there, but we had curtains because we didn't have working blinds, so I could finally have some light on me sometimes, which is nice. But today we're going to talk about the state of Multicrew. Initially, we didn't have much traction. We're actually starting the show a little bit late, like about 15 minutes late. But I am super excited while also somewhat disappointed about Multicrew. I think it is in a wonderful state as far as combat goes, possibly a little bit too powerful as far as combat goes, but in general, I think it is a fantastic upgrade to what we had previously. So with the new capacitor system, what CIG slash Star Citizen did. Sorry, let me quiet those alerts. I do appreciate all the follows and subs and stuff on Twitch, guys, but we are doing a podcast, so I will thank all of you as best I can later after the show. But thank you for the support, as always. Yeah, so Multicrew. With capacitors coming in, they basically went ahead and said, well, what we're going to do with turrets and to make Multicrew more viable is have way less harsh punishments on the capacitor gameplay in turrets to make them able to fire more rounds, basically, than a normal spaceship would be. Because you always have to make the choice, right? So is a turret better than using a second ship? And at the moment, I think the answer to that question is now yes. And in 3.13 and previous, the answer was no. It was always no. Multicrewing specifically when it comes to combat, I think the answer is yes. I don't think using multicrew in ships like the Argo Mole makes any sense currently. I've gone into that, and hopefully those changes in ships and issues with mining do get resolved at some point, but not at the moment. But specifically for multicrew, if you have two Badger repeaters on a, I don't know, let's say a Gladius, you might have 50 rounds, 30 rounds that can fire before your capacitor runs out. On a Constellation Andromeda, it has 300. You're able to do quite a bit of damage, and turrets are a bit of an aimbot at the moment as well. It's very difficult to actually miss your shots when you're in a turret, so that's really awesome. Now, those are the positives, I think. The negatives are, at the moment, there, I believe, is only one ship in which you can manage your capacitor power in a secondary seat other than the pilot. So engineering-like gameplay is non-existent. I would say missile operator mode is, in my experience so far, kind of pointless. I don't feel like missiles are hitting that often. I guess certain ones are because certain countermeasures may not be working at the moment. But when countermeasures were working, it didn't seem like missiles were even a viable use in combat. So I don't know how I feel about all that yet. But in general, I think the issue that still comes with multicrew and the state of it, and if it is viable, is that there's still no reason to multicrew with your friends outside of killing people. I think maybe bounty hunting, but on the opposite end, just being a PKer is way easier in multicrew ships. The Hurricane, I mean, I just did it right before the show with Moist Noodle, who's going to pop in just a second here. Yeah, I mean, anybody who comes at you solo has little to no shot, is what it feels like. So, yeah, it's quite crazy. But I think, off the top of my head, I think those are my only thoughts right now on this. Is it really comes down to the game is obviously not finished. There needs to be a lot more to the game to want to group up with your friends in one central location and play together in that spaceship. And that's not there yet. But this is not a step in the right direction. This is like an Olympic long jump leap in the right direction. So feels pretty good, feeling pretty good about it. But I'm gonna bring on Moist now, and we'll probably just kind of continue on with our conversation that we were having before the show while we were multi-crewing in a constellation. So all right, let's bring on Moist here. Hey Moist, how you doing, buddy?
Hello, I'm all right. How are you? Nice
I'm
to talk to you for the first time today.
Yeah, nice to talk to you for the first time today as well. Yeah, so I don't know if it's feeling pretty good, but
You know, the only I said it last week on Answer the Call, and I've said it many times since. 314 feels like we're finally approaching the starting line, right? And I think
yeah,
that includes this, right? It actually feels for the first time like there is a reason to actually have people other than yourself on the ship, which is actually quite lovely.
yeah, for sure. If you guys can't tell, I wasn't prepared. I thought I was actually just gonna have to do a monologue today about Multicrew, but Moist came in and is a real champion, helping out.
I felt bad.
I know, like I felt I was okay. I'm
You
gonna
missed
put
the
a
underscore,
I'm gonna
by
put
the
a
way.
call out to you guys here. This is like a general feedback thing. Sometimes there's not good topics, all right? Sometimes it's hard to get random people to want to come in on a show. So I'm gonna put out a call to everybody out there who's watching on Twitch and watching on YouTube. If I give you a day's notice, I assume it's gonna be a lot easier to get you guys to come on the show and be interested in joining the queue and everything. I also think
Oh
I need
yeah.
to be a little bit better with like having moderators ready to go and queuing up people way in advance and all sorts of stuff like that. So, yeah, I think there's quite a few things I'm gonna need to do this better. Most of the time, if you're watching on YouTube, I throw this topic together sometimes minutes before the show because Star Citizen's in a state where you can't have interesting things to talk about weekly like this. I don't know how I've managed to do this show as consistently as I have, but I have, and here we
I
are.
don't know, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, I struggle. Like, I just roll out of bed and dust off the crust and then start my stream on a daily basis. And then I realize once I'm sat in front of the computer, I have no idea what I'm going to do today.
Same.
Like, apart from rubber band across the galaxy, I'm really good at that.
Yeah. Pretty much the same for me. It's just that's kind of the state of the game, and that's how I feel about Multicrew. Is like, damn man, what a nice direction to go in. But
Hmm.
I'm trying to get some of my friends that we've played with to join like in a ship together. But then you go, all right, once we get in the ship, what do we do? And that's been
Yeah.
kind of the challenge, I guess. Is like what we did today, I feel like is the only thing to do. Is go,
Well,
all right, I'm
here's-
going to get a level 5 crime stat and bring it.
Yeah.
Whether it's the NPC military that comes after you or the players. Bring it. And then you just take on whatever comes after you.
One of the very first things I said to you as we arrived at Port Olisar was, because there was nobody there, right?
Yeah.
So the challenge is, how do you find people? And why are we hunting people in the first place? All right. And the thing is, I would happily do PvE content with a multi-crew as well, right?
Sure.
But you know, we've been doing the same missions over and over and over. I mean, like, yeah, now I can deliver 3 boxes instead of 1. That's fantastic. But I'm looking for something more engaging, all right?
I mean, Xenothreat Ninetales, boys. That's the hope for Multicrew. I mean, that is the equalizer, I think, in 314.
I've already said it. Yeah, I will be multi-crewing those events, dude.
Same.
I think I'm actually gonna put some effort into multi-crew because I've really enjoyed the last few days. Really, it was a big thank you to Lord Holyman, really, because he's the person that really pushed me to kind of hop into the Connie with him. So I've been hanging out with Lord Holyman and online, and I've literally for the last God knows how many, like the last 20 or 30 years, we've been playing this game waiting for it to be developed, right? I spent most of that time flying light fighters, and it has been so nice just to sit in a turret with one hand on one joystick, another hand on another joystick, and just shoot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You don't have to think
just
as much, and you actually get to kind of enjoy the game.
It's so relaxing, dude. So chilled. Yeah,
And
I love it.
I feel like being a pilot for Multicrew, because I did it in the, I think we were in the Carrick yesterday, and it's also totally different because your mindset is in a different place. Like, I need to line up so the turrets can hit. So you're
Yeah, you
flying
can.
in a way to make it easier for them, and
Yeah,
it's awesome.
it's a lot easier when, especially as you're learning how to fight, you can hyper focus on just that one task that you have, right? And then
Yep.
you and your friends, you communicate with each other. Like, for example, when we were testing Xenothreat yesterday, I took a full crew hammerhead. I actually didn't want to fly because I've been suffering with a lot of crash to desktop issues in 3.14.
Yep.
So I had my friend Timmy fly, and he did a great job. And every now and again, I'd say, "Oh, we don't have line of sight. Oh, there's a retaliator to our left. We need
Yep.
to shoot the dude." Trying to shoot down the torpedoes with a hammerhead is the most fun ever, dude. It's so good. Now we have pips on them as well.
Yep.
It's so frigging cool. Now, I before you started recording the podcast, I don't know. I think it was before you started recording the podcast. You did mention that you didn't quite think it's there yet, and I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It's like I said earlier. I think this is us approaching the start line. There's a long way to go. You have to remember we're waiting on shield emitters, which I think will bring in more fun power play and engineering gameplay. And obviously we had the actual engineering gameplay as well. And I think, once we get that, it will feel more like Sea of Thieves multi-crew model, which is a very simplistic model to what I think we'll get in Star Citizen.
But hella fun.
Lots of fun. Lots of fun. And it requires so much communication. And I think that's the thing. Like you've mentioned that you think it might be too easy right now. I agree with you. I think there needs to be some work done to turrets. I think they are hyper accurate, and the ammunition magazines are ridiculously massive. Like you can just keep firing that thing.
Yeah, like you kind of can't do both. Like, should one turret, like
Yeah.
this was the kind of situation that me and Moist had, and obviously Moist is a very, very good pilot, but I am standing there firing 2 Badger repeaters. We're talking 2 size 2 weapons, and I was destroying. What did we blow up? We blew up a Constellation. We blew up Vanguard
Star
multiple
Runner,
times.
Vanguard,
A Star Runner. Yeah.
NPC Hammerhead.
I mean, Moist, you're firing as well with the 4 size 4s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that, yeah.
But the thing is, like, when I lose the shot, right, because I don't have the pitch in the yaw, right? So sometimes they'll get past us. You pretty much, all I'm doing is I'm rolling the ship to make sure the target is always above us. So you can just keep firing and firing and firing. Unless they run to get distance on us, then they're screwed. But what you have to remember is the Andromeda is a gunship. That is literally the point, the role of the ship, right? So it should be tough. It was always described as a ship that could take on multiple fighters at the same time. And really, I think today wasn't a good example, because if we went up against 1 or 2 really good pilots, there was no way we could have survived. They would have found it a hard fight.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately they would have got us, because the moment that eventually I would have run out of capacitor in engines, I would have run out of capacitor for weapons, I would have run out of capacitor for shields, and once that's basically checkmate, right? At that point, all you can do is run. But the people that we went up against today weren't necessarily the best example of fights, right? Like they didn't use very good tactics. All they did was they sat in front of us, they floated in front of us, they died. If you're sitting in front of 4 size 4s and 2 size 2s, that's going to happen.
You're dead.
But I think ultimately what it will come down to in the future is, once we have the shield emitter gameplay, I think once we have the engineering gameplay, and communication will play such a large role in multi-crew that if you don't communicate well as a multi-crew or as a crew, then I think you'll probably be not an easy target, but there will be, let me put it another way. Something that I've talked about a lot is skill gap, right? And how in the early implementations of the flight model with Star Citizen, the issue with PvP was that the skill gap was so wide between players who were like gods in PvP and everybody else, that a lot of people, it didn't encourage people into PvP. Like before you started the recording today, we were having this discussion about Arena Commander, right?
Yeah.
Where, you know, if you jump into Arena Commander, very often you're going up against some of the best players in the game, and that doesn't encourage you to keep going into Arena Commander if you're just constantly getting smashed. And I think when we got the newer flight model, it actually narrowed the skill gap quite a lot, which was nice because it got a little bit easier to run away if you needed to.
Yep.
And it did slow down combat somewhat. Now, I think what's happened here is with Multicrew, it's actually increased the skill gap more. I think it's a lot more difficult now if you're in a solo fighter to take on a Multicrew, but it should be. If you're in a solo fighter, should you easily be able to destroy a ship that has 2, 3, 4 people in it? No, not necessarily. I don't think it's not an easy thing to balance. I think there's still a little bit more balance to do because, you know, as say me and a Hornet, me taking on a solo Andromeda, for example, is still very, very tough. So I think there does need to be a little bit more balance there. And I you know, you mentioned as well before the recording, sorry to keep referencing things before the recording, but you did mention, you know, maybe we should take countermeasures away from the pilot and give them to the co-pilot, or put them on missile operator mode or something.
Yeah,
and while I don't necessarily agree with that idea,
the reason I say that is you need to. I feel like the game needs to punish multi-crew ships that only have a solo pilot in some way.
I don't think punish is the right word. You need to encourage group gameplay, right? Yeah. And that's the difference. And I completely agree with that. It's just trying to work. This is why I mentioned the shield emitters and the engineering gameplay. I think that's what that will do.
Okay.
Right.
That seems fair.
I think what we'll probably find is CIG might try to balance it in a way once we have that, you know, maybe we'll have things like power distributors, right? So, you know, moving your power around isn't quite as effective on a multi-crew ship, right? But again, I'm personally, I'm really enjoying multi-crew right now, even in this quote unquote early implementation of it. And really all it's done is got me more excited for where it's going to go from here.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think some people, not some people, but I do see a lot of this said often, and somebody in Twitch chat said it, when we're talking about like the size of the weapons and all these things. I always see this get mentioned, and it actually makes me want to pull my hair out, is when they go, but we don't have armor in. And it's like, okay, so because I think that's in reference to when I said my 2 size 2 weapons are doing too much damage. But like, look at what they did with Multicrew, and I think that this was like one of the wins that they had, is they go, yeah, we don't have armor in, so we're just gonna buff the health of these ships, and then we're also going to compensate with the size of the shields that some of these ships have, right? Like, one of the biggest changes was Akani getting a size 3 shield when it used to have, what, 2 size 2s. So it's those things where,
that was a great change, I think.
Yeah, agreed. You can't just go, oh, this thing isn't in the game, so we're not going to make the game that you're trying to play today viable at all. I think that's an excuse that CIG used to use, and I think I think it was always a crappy one. And now I think CIG is legitimately doing what they can with the tools that they have to try to make what they have interesting.
At the end of the day, CIG had to do this now because Death of a Spaceman is literally on the horizon now, right? We have medical gameplay coming in 3.15 and the events. And at the end of the day, you know, if you are taking off from Port Olisar and as you're flying away, you suddenly explode because the time to kill is so short that Moist Noodle just comes along and braps you in 2 or 3 seconds, that's a problem, right? We need to get into the mindset of death is actually going to mean something. And not only are we not going, or we're going to want to try and avoid dying, obviously, so we don't want our ships to just instantly explode in a fight. But think about the gameplay elements of it. Yeah, obviously in a single seat fight you don't get this, but in a multi-crew ship, You know, there are people like Online. Online is an actual aircraft engineer in real life, right? And that
Yeah.
is the type of gameplay that he is. Sorry to dox you, Online. That is the type of gameplay that he is really looking for in Star Citizen, and he's really good at it. It shows when we play Sea of Thieves. You know, running around the ship repairing stuff is what he's really good at. You know, managing the sales is what he's really good at. And you know, if I'm actually going to be in this epic cinematic fight, I need to not die instantly and actually run around having the opportunity to repair things that are breaking, right?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. That's where the viability isn't right now. Like, it's just that's obviously what we need, but the expectation of, don't you get the feeling that this is kind of where Multicrew is going to stop for quite some time?
Yeah.
I get the vibe that they're like, all right. they're all patting themselves on the back right now. Hey, we did a good job. The community is actually not yelling at us about something. Pat, 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 right? And they deserve that pat on the back. Like, it is a really good thing, but it just needs to be the thing that drives me absolutely insane. And this is the one thing where it's like, yo, multi-crewing outside of combat could have been made slightly more viable. Actually, for me personally, I think incredibly more viable by doing one thing between 3.13 and 3.14. In the Hercules, they added, and I don't know how much work it took to do this, and I don't know how much work it would do to continue it, but the Hercules has that personal inventory in there. So for me, for a little RP, for a little bit of making it feel a bit more immersive and real, if I had any control over the management of this project between 3.13 and 3.14, I would have done one specific thing that was not done. I would have taken one or two people and I would have said, if this is what it takes, I mean, obviously this is a lot of speculation, and would have said, all right, so what we did on the Hercules, I'm going to need you to do that to a couple of other ships. I'm going to need you to make it, just fake it till you make it, put some personal inventory inside the 890 jump in a couple of locations, and the Carrack, and maybe like the 600i and the Connie if you have time.
Yeah.
And then say, have at it, people, because I think it would be very, very cool to, in a multi-crew ship, store med pens, a bunch of food, a bunch of water. So whenever you need things, you can go there. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but in preparation for the very near future, in 3.14, you can literally take the ammo magazines off of your armor, put them in your hand, and drop them on the ground to another player. So if your friend is out of ammo, there you go. You can have that. In preparation for that, maybe you could store that stuff inside the ships, right? So those are the things where I think we missed in 3.14, if it was even possible to hit. I don't know if it was. But that would have been the one very, very minor change that I would have made, because I think that grouping up together and having all of those things in one place actually makes that multi-crew ship that much more viable. Because it's not like, oh, I'm thirsty, can you drop me off at a station? Oh, hold on, let me take up my personal inventory space with 1,000 waters, but if I die, then I lose all of them. Well, the ship is less likely to die than you are, right? So there's just that tiny little bit, I think, would have made it like so much better for me in this patch. But yeah, I don't know.
Imagine, Mike. Imagine.
I wouldn't
We're
have
so
to.
close to it, dude. It's so close to being. I mean, okay, maybe this seems a bit, but I was about to say it's so close to being good. Do you know what I mean? We're so close to it actually starting to feel like a game.
Do you know
I
how
mean, like,
stupid
yeah,
that
we've been
statement
playing
is?
for years. I know, dude.
Do you know how
I
many
know.
years in a row you've said that statement?
I know, dude.
It's not.
But
it's
it
not.
actually, feels like
you are
it, though.
on Crusader floating in the clouds right now. It's not.
No, dude. No, dude. Dude, what are we getting in 3.15? Personal inventory, dude. We're gonna actually have shit and loot, right?
What kind of shit are you going to loot? What are you gonna loot?
I'm gonna shoot you in the face and steal all your med pens, Mike. I'm
Yeah.
gonna fiddle with all your
Wow.
bits, right? And there's nothing you can do to stop me. I can't
Wow.
wait.
Right?
Finally. And when people say, "Why did you kill me?" Right? It's so I can say, so I could steal your shit. Which is I couldn't say that before, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
That's
But
nice.
then within a week, you're gonna go, Mike. So this personal inventory thing is fun. It's really fun to kill people and take their med pens, but we're so close to it being a game. If they only had NPCs have like really rare med pens or
I
these
know,
other
dude.
things that are super hard to find that we all know with 100% certainty, like can almost guarantee that in 315 none of that will exist because they're going to spend all their time
Mate,
taking
in
the things that are
314,
currently in the
there's
game.
an event, right? There's an event in 314 which gives us goddamn in-game rewards that
Yes,
isn't money.
very
Can you
exciting.
believe it?
Yeah,
It's
and I
super
think
exciting, dude.
I think that makes Multicrew even like to tie it all back, come all the way full circle. The group sharing of missions plus being in the same ship, gaining rep together is probably going to make that easier. Would be my guess.
Mhm.
I don't know how the rep is like. Do you know from experience? Does the I'll take a look at Twitch chat too to see, is the rep split exactly the same way as the financial gain from each mission? I would imagine it
I'm not too
is.
sure, dude. I'm not too sure. I've only ever seen red reputation in Star Citizen, so.
True. From failing missions and stuff. I'll keep my eye on chat for this one, but I believe that rep is shared split. If it's not, then that makes it like even crazier, way more viable. But I don't know. I guess before we go, I will ask one last question. I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I do want to touch on it slightly more.
Mhm.
How do we tone down turrets? I would say before you answer, they need to be destructible. They need to be able to be
They
locked on.
100%, yes, I agree. And that is something that CIG themselves have talked about. So I think that is something
I
that is
think that's
coming.
in the plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can leave them as powerful as they are now if you made them destructible and lockable.
I think they need to tone down the weapon capacity, because having 300 rounds, I think it is, with badges or whatever, is insane. You never stop firing pretty much. Then when you do stop firing, you only have to wait a second for it to recharge.
True.
Which is
It is
crazy.
very CIG of them. Like when CIG wants you to do something, they make it so OP that everybody has to do it. Like, I would imagine within a week, every single ganker type PvPer will no longer be flying a solo ship. There is you are never going to see a Talon again. You are never going to see a oh god, what was the other ship that everybody flew in? Anvil Arrow again. It is going to be straight Constellation Andromeda, Hurricane, maybe Vanguard at the absolute worst.
I mean, like, there are some very skilled members of the PvP community who are also slight loners, right? Not that they play on their own, but they like to do their own thing.
It's actually a challenge for them now, is what it would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think those people will probably continue flying their solo ships, but like you said, it is more of a challenge for them now, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, I've seen a lot of PvPers jumping into Hurricanes. You know, that the Hurricane looks like so much fun right now.
Yeah.
So I think for the Ninetales event, which is the PvP event, I'm probably gonna multi-crew all of it. It'll either be, you know, depending on how many people I got, me in a Hurricane with somebody, or me in the Connie. Hell, I even actually want to, apparently the Cutlass is performing really well. So I'd actually like to spend a bit of time with the Cutlass as well. But personally, you know, I've had this issue for a long time with Star Citizen. It's going to sound a little bit arrogant of me, but, you know, depending on the patch, sometimes I love playing with other people and sometimes I don't. And the reason for that up until now has been, there have been certain patches where, you know, as a skilled PvPer, it's hard enough sometimes to find people in the game because there's no way to actively hunt people. All you can do is
Yeah,
sit
they took
somewhere
that away.
and wait for people to come to you,
Yeah.
right? We had it at one point, but they did take it away. Although it was still going to a location, right? And just hoping that there were people there. It was just lots of people were going there. But the point that I'm making is, when you're a PvPer and you're already struggling to find any targets, it doesn't really encourage you to play with other people, which when I have so many friends in this community is actually kind of demoralizing, really. I've always wanted a reason to play with people. And it's
viewers.
really nice. Yeah,
As a
exactly.
streamer.
And
I always
it's
feel
finally
like
nice to
people pop
have a
in and they're
reason to
like,
play with people.
yeah, agreed. I
Mhm.
always feel like people pop in and are like, hey, can we multi-crew? Like, this has been a thing for years, and I'm always just like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
No,
it's
go
just
away.
sucks up
It's not
until now.
fun. Stop. And now I
Yeah.
feel like being like, yeah, why? Where are you guys? Like, come on, let's join. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, is there anything else you want to add before we move on to the next caller then, Moist?
No, I'm pretty much done. I'm happy with this starting point after 9 years, and hopefully it can only improve from here.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be any worse than it was, so there's only improvements. Moist, thank you for feeling bad for me and coming on.
No problem, dude.
And carrying the show to the point where we can get
Not
a
a
couple more
problem.
people to pop in. I appreciate it.
Kick me out, daddy.
I'm kicking you out. Guys, twitch.tv/moist_noodle. All right? If you haven't watched his Twitch channel yet, I highly suggest you do so. All right? Thank you so much again, Moist. Bye now.
Hi, guys.
Our next one is... Oh, I'm trying to pull him in. Go Mab. Go Mab, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, man. So, had a long talk with Moist. I don't know if you were listening, but obviously, Multicrew is very different. So, what are your thoughts on everything, and how do you feel about it?
Well, I'll preface this with saying that it's a great step in the right direction, but I still think two equally skilled fighters is going to be better than, let's say, a Connie with a gunner that is also equally skilled, right? If you have 4 people and they're all equally skilled, the two fighters are still going to win.
Okay. Why do you think so?
One, because of target priority, right? You got 2 fighters that are that are peppering you, so you can only pick one to go after at a time. And yes, the turret gunner can be on the other one, but that's still, you're splitting focus, and your motion, your movements are only going to be going in one direction. So
Do you think
I still think
the turret buff sort of helps with that, maybe?
definitely, right? Like I said, I think it's still a great step in the right direction, and it definitely will push a lot of people towards that multi-crew gameplay, and I'm happy to see it, right?
Yeah.
And shout out to you, man. It's good to hear you excited about something.
I'm usually not, right? So yeah, shout out to his family for being happy about something. Somebody came into Twitch chat today before the podcast started and just literally typed nothing else other than, so what are we complaining about today? And I'm like, oh, is that really what like you guys think about me? And it's like, man, I don't like I know I made my name SaltEMike. It's because people always call me Salty. It's not because like that's who I wanted to be. And it's like, oof, man, that was like a dose of reality that I wasn't happy with.
Yeah, but you're like myself, right? We both clearly love this game, but you can be critical from a place of wanting it to be better. So
yeah, it comes from that place first. Is that it comes from love?
Definitely.
No?
So, but as far as the multi-crew stuff, I am again, I'm very happy. I'm excited to get in there, especially for the Nine Tails and the Xeno Threat remix. Yeah. I think it'll be really, that's going to be really fun to jump in. I think some of our people from the Soul Citizens folks, we're going to be jumping in today to try to get some going.
Nice.
Are
they playtesting today? again? Do we know?
I think so.
Okay.
Apparently, people were saying yesterday it was supposed to be around 2 o'clock today. I don't know. I didn't see anything on the official forums. I
Nice.
figured we'd jump in and get some ships going and
I might try today.
yeah.
As
Now that
well,
we
it'd be fun.
we have literally you have every ship available to you in the PTU,
Yeah.
so
That's
there's
nice.
no reason. Yeah.
That's nice.
Now-
They finally did that, which was a thing that hasn't been done for a while. But yeah, go ahead. Let's get back on
Yeah.
the subject of Multicrew.
Now, all right. So one of the things that I've always it's always been a thing for me, right, is picking your ships based upon what you want to do, right?
Sure.
Cynically, I'll say CIG wants Multicrew to be good because they want to sell bigger, more expensive ships, right?
Perhaps.
And-
I also think it's just more fun, and I think
Yeah,
they know
and it's
that
more fun.
too.
But that's why I preface it by saying cynically.
Yeah.
But let's say everybody goes out and buys, a Connie or something that has that leans more towards Multicrew. Yeah, you may have some single seaters, but if everybody's got a Connie or everybody has even an MSR or a Hurricane or something that benefits from being Multicrew, who's going to be the crew? Everybody wants to fly their ship. I want to fly my ships. Maybe sometimes if our friends are on, I'll go jump in your ship, but. I got my nice cool Connie.
Fair.
Well, somebody hop in my turret.
How about this? I'm the opposite of you. I don't ever want to fly. Ever. I absolutely love just being in any support role possible. I don't like, believe it or not, being a streamer and all this stuff, I hate being the center of attention. Hate it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to in the group role, I love doing the support things. I don't like being the one to be the, okay guys, we got to go over here, we got to go over there, we got to do this, we got to do that. I'm actually dreading, we're trying to get a whole Star Citizen creator I should message some of you guys too from Soul Citizens about for New World. We're gonna make a company of all of us in one server. We have to pick the server and everything, but that's what we're trying to do, is get everybody together in one server and play a different game together. I'm the one who decided that I thought that was a good idea, and I feel like that management and that leadership role is gonna fall on me, and it's scaring me. Those things I don't want to do.
It sounds awesome though. It
does.
sounds awesome.
But I also would much rather just be a healer in the and that's it. So I'm the complete opposite of I have my ships, I want to fly them. I don't.
Well, all right. So 100% agree with that, right? But if you say that and then say I own a Carrack, an 890, and all these multi-crew focused ships, right? They're your ships. Mm-hmm. So now are you going to pull them out and say, all right, everybody else, you fly my stuff, I'll be back here in the turret?
Yeah.
Or would it make more sense for you to say, hey, let me jump in your Hammerhead or somebody else's 890 or somebody else's 600 or whatever, right?
True. Yeah. Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So and I agree. There are people that will thrive as being the ace turret gunner. If you got Mike back in the turret, anybody who comes up behind us is done, right? That'd be awesome, but it doesn't make sense for you to spend thousands of dollars on your own multi-crew ships. All you need is a ride to get to the station to jump on somebody's ship.
Sure. Can we touch more on that just a little bit? Because I think this was something I wanted to talk about with Moist, and we got on a little bit of a different subject as the conversation went on. You brought up something that is super, super interesting when you mentioned a really good turret gunner. I'm not sure that exists at the moment with the state of turrets right now. I think it is impossible not to be a really good turret gunner. And for this game to be really skill-based like Star Citizen wants it to be, I think people are not going to want to hear this, but I think it does definitely need to be dialed back in some way to add skill to it. I think that maybe the number of shots is okay. helping out with the aim is okay, but literally being an aimbot is maybe not the right direction to go in. But I know turrets have had their problems, and it's going to be a balancing act. But
Yeah,
what do you think
it's going
about
to
that?
continue to be.
Because
Yeah,
don't
it's
you want that to be a thing? Like, don't you want that to be something where you learn with practice and become good at being a turret gunner? And maybe that's like people want you in their org or want to hire you or something like that, where
yeah.
that becomes a thing.
Well, yes. I mean, so take into consideration one, you're an experienced pilot already in the verse, right?
That's debatable, but sure.
But I mean, you've been in there for years, right?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You've shot down your fair share of NPCs and players.
Sure.
You've spent time in AC. I'm not. You might not be a top tier PvP as you said before,
Yeah.
but you understand the movements and the controls and how it works. So when you jump into a turret, it may seem like the skill floor is quite low. A lot of newer players may cut their teeth on turrets before they really jump out into a Talon or a Shrike or a Vanguard or something on their own.
Fair.
And also, yeah, I do believe that we're going to continue to see iterations and balance and things like that. That's going to increase the skill range in all aspects of the gameplay, right now it's just like, okay, we're going to bump this up. So they bumped up turrets, but then you spoke on it earlier. You're going to have shield capacitor gameplay. You're going to have armor implemented. You're going to have engineering, and hopefully you'll have the destructibility of the turrets, right?
Yeah.
In there, right? And so, I'm sure there's going to be other control factors. Like right now, you've got different fire modes in the turrets, right? You're going to have to determine which one of those is going to be more effective against certain targets. You're going to have different movement types. So I think you have gyro or relational. So it's either there or coming. That will.
Like
So
most things, yeah.
yes, exactly. I mean, everything in this game is soon TM, right?
Sure.
So there's going to be that enough decision making points as a turret gunner so that if you make the right decisions, you're going to be better. Versus if you just jump in and Leroy Jenkins on the trigger, you're not going to be asked back.
Yeah, I guess the one thing maybe would be to the turret is its own separate thing. If it's its own separate thing and has its own capacitor, it should obviously maybe have its own heat threshold, and managing that it would definitely be a skill. Would be my guess. That they can really dive into and something people could learn.
Yeah. I'm happy for the death of heat being the penalty.
I am as well. That's actually good. Maybe we should stay away from that.
I think heat should be long-term, like they say, long-term damage and repair.
Yeah, I might roll back on that statement. I think I agree with you.
But yes, having to manage your shots, capacitors, being able to overcharge your turret based upon the capacitor, of energy available, right? If you're rolling around for that kill shot and you've got to hit it 3-4 more times in order to make it go pop, maybe you can hit a button to overcharge it, but you're going to deplete your capacitor really quickly, right? And if your pilot or the engineer hasn't given you enough power, that overcharge may only give you 3 shots, versus if they're full power to weapons, they may give you 8 shots. Something like that.
Sure. Yeah. I think there's definitely a bunch of ways they can go, and I think the theme of today's show is definitely going to be, this is a great starting point. And
yes.
And it's not just good, it's actually great. And I don't think we get to say that with Star Citizen very often. And I think the team at, like, the vehicle experience team and the flight experience team or whatever, these people that work on this specific end of the game, has gotten a lot of flack from the PvP community and just general flight community for a long time in this game, and I think it feels really nice to see them get a lot of praise because it hasn't happened much. And I'll be the first to say I did not believe in capacitors being a solution to anything. I don't think they're the solution to all the problems, but it is definitely better than I thought it would be. That's for sure.
Well, I'll reserve judgment until I get my sticks worked out, so where
nice.
it becomes a more natural, fluid part of my gameplay. Because right now it's just clunky as hell.
I just changed my setup a bit, and it's I'm getting used to it, but I'm more comfortable with it. But yeah, so I think I can maybe speak from it a little bit better than you at the moment, but soon for you as well.
I'm working on it. Yesterday was my first real time flying and trying to manage it, and
Gotcha.
And I switched out my bindings like 4 or 5 times.
Oh
yesterday.
Oh yeah. You got to find what works for you for sure. I have as well, but I'm getting more comfortable. And for me, it's like I've run out of buttons. There's so many things that you need, and not enough buttons to use them. So yeah.
Well, you gotta put a shift or like an alt
right
alt button on your
on your stick, and then that gives you 12 more buttons.
Right.
Exactly. That's funny. True.
And carpal tunnels.
True. All right, go, Mav. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, man.
Let you go.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's fun. I'm glad I was here on a positive and fun, kind of a more upbeat day, man. This is good.
I really hope this is more consistent going forward. And if the changes to 3.14, which I was like, I'm sorry, I was not excited for 3.14 at all, other than Xenothreat and Ninetales, and I knew we wouldn't have those at the very beginning, so I wasn't super excited for 3.14. The changes that came specifically to Multicrew have renewed my excitement for the game, and then on top of that we have Xenothreat, Ninetales that lead into 3.15 that seems to have a lot of the things that I've always wanted for Star Citizen. So it's very hard for me not to be positive. I will not mention Crusader. No. Crusader is no for me. But other than that, I'm very happy.
Well, I say this: enjoy 3.14 and this it's wonderful time of Multicrew, at least until 3.15 when the Ares come out and make all other ships that have guns worthless.
True. I'm very. I
can
that
just
is
see
a
it now. Those things are just
just
going to melt everything, and they're like, "Oh God, we made a big mistake."
Yep, we shouldn't have done this, but they did it. How are they going to manage it? We'll see. But all right, go, man. Right, Thank you so much, dude. Bye now.
Bye.
All right, and then our next caller is Online. Online, what's up, dude?
Hello.
So Online came in. He literally typed in Twitch chat and said, "Do you need people to talk? I'm good at talking too much."
Yes.
And I said, "Yes, please." So here he is. Online is Online. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. So we've talked to 2 people now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you the opportunity.
Number 3.
You're number 3. If there's anything that you want to respond or talk about to anything they said or add on to, feel free, and then we can just let the conversation flow.
I want to add on to the conversation of eliminating solo pilots for these multi-crew ships. Because I've seen a couple Spectrum posts about it. A lot of people, I think, are concerned about that. Like, you're going to be flying around and you're going to see the usual, like, solo hammerhead, in missile operator mode the whole time. Mm-hmm. So I think right now they're going to be able to get away with it. But in the future, with the flight engineer mechanics and stuff like that, like, they're already talking about, like, ship fires happening maybe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot for them. So that, I think, is how they're going to eliminate people soloing, ships like the Connie and the 600i.
Okay.
Because, they go to those ships because you can fly those, solo and shoot your weapons and stuff, but they're going to make it, I think, so
Yeah.
managing your systems and stuff you can't do yourself. So yeah, you could fly around and shoot, but you may not be able to manage your shields or
But you're vanilla,
you know,
yeah. That's kind of what I was
yeah.
tying into when I had mentioned before the show that it was like maybe you have to go into like missile operator mode to be able to fire your countermeasures or something to just make it more difficult on the pilot. And like I don't know, in multi-crew ships, the only way to go to missile operator mode would be in like another seat or something, and like add all these extra punishments on top of it. And Moist kind of was like, "No, don't." I think you're being a little ridiculous when it comes to that, but yeah, and I think he's right. But there has to be some, because I think that is like the plague that is in this game at the moment is. Even the last caller mentioned it is I want to fly my ship and I have 12 of them and all of them have all of these seats, so it's like what do you do? And it's one of the problems that this game has is they sold these ships to people, they sold these ideas in their head of what they were going to do, but then in reality, especially in reality in 3.14, the idea of grouping up together, desync, partying, the 12 different modes of transport you need to take to get to each other. You got to ride a bus, a train, a tricycle, then quantum travel in a spaceship, and then you can see each other, right? So there's a lot of things that make grouping together sort of a pain in the ass. And I think when people actually like jump into play Star Citizen, they might have like an hour or two, and they want to just play. So they jump in the ship they want to play with, even though it might not be as effective or as fun with other players, or they might just not have friends. Who knows?
I think I personally don't like to fly the ships that I have. I like to, if there's someone who's looking for people to play, I love to hop in and do, turret or even just stand in the back. Yeah. So
you
I
always
think
fly, like especially like me, I'm always flying alone, so it's nice to do the other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think how they're going to counter that now is they're going to increase the claim timer for the ships. I think that's a reason they did that. I'm pro it. Sorry. I think that these ships need a little bit more value, but yeah, with the testing and stuff, it's kind of ridiculous. So you can't really adjust that timer right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree
but that's
with
how they're
it
going to have to counter it.
I agree with it in practice in a more finished product, but right now it's just a bad idea.
But yeah, once they add more value to the ships in game, I think until then, and we have a lot of people too who are just sitting on this game with a starter pack. They may start playing, and I've seen it. In global chat, someone would be like, "Hey, I'm looking to fill up a hammerhead," and they get like one or two people, that have like starter packs, and they're like, "Yeah, I want to see it," and then they hop in and do some missions or whatever. So it's there.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, but you got to realize too, like the people playing the game right now are, like us. They're just sweaty, try hard. We have our ships and we're just gonna play every day, because we love the game how it is now.
Yeah, or we're just crazy, which is probably true as well.
Yeah.
But
it's our copium.
Yeah. I mean, I think anybody who plays Star Citizen enough to see a good amount of it has the feeling of, wow, this game is not there, but if it was. So it makes you really want to play it, You just like, are like, if this game ever gets there, my goodness.
I got excited the other day. I was playing with Moist Noodle and Lord Holy Man when we were doing the Connie. I don't know if Moist brought it up, but
yeah, he brought it up. We had some clips and stuff. It was nice.
Yeah, the power. Did he talk about the power triangle? Me being able to like adjust it from the co-pilot seat.
Yeah, we did. He actually mentioned that you did it, but he didn't touch much on it. So feel free.
Yeah, so I found out we were sitting there doing it, and my player at the time was desynced. And I was able to figure out like my player thinks I'm on the other side of the map or something. So I wasn't able to like lock targets or whatever.
Gotcha.
But when I got it fixed, I was able to adjust the power triangle for the pilot. And later on, he told me that he found out that was a bug. It's not supposed to be. We're not supposed to be able to do it yet. So I don't know.
But then I also was told, this was again a Twitch chat developer, probably, like just random Twitch chatter that thinks he knows everything. But they said that they said they don't think they're going to be able to get the ability to move the triangle into all ships, because I think it's supposed to work on the Connie, because the Connie is, I believe, the only ship that has those MFDs that are in building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just so it's clear, chat and people that are watching on YouTube, the Constellation Andromeda is the only ship, or the Constellation series, I think, but definitely the Andromeda is the only ship that is, if you're in the co-pilot seat, you can move the capacitor power to engines, shields, and weapons. I believe it is if you are the last person sitting in a seat. So it sounds like a bug. It might be a bug, but it's fun. So if you haven't taken part in it yet, you might want to while we still have it. I don't think it should be a bug, and that is one of the things that I personally feel is lacking as far as the other ships with Multicrew, is those extra co-pilot seats literally have nothing to do.
It's another one of those bugs where you just don't want to lose. Like, remember the bug where you could change your undersuit and it changed the paint on your ship?
Really? I never knew that.
Yeah, this was, I think, before they started adding
That's
paints.
how you did it, though? I knew there was a bug with the paints, but I didn't know how to make it happen.
Yeah, they I don't know what they were doing. They were getting the paints ready, and people found out if you wore your undersuit when you spawned your ship, it would claim that undersuit's like texture or whatever, so it would be that paint. So that's why you saw some like pink prospectors and stuff like that.
Gotcha. That was cool, man.
Yeah, but it's another one of those bugs that's just like you don't want them to fix, but they're probably, investigate it and find something else related that actually is maybe game breaking. So then they gotta fix it, but because who knows, maybe it causes game, crash the desktop or something.
It could.
So.
Do you want to touch on? I think the biggest subject is probably the turret and its level of OP-ness. Wow, that sounds really weird the way I just said that, but yeah. I just recognize that. I should probably not say that again. But it does seem just too easy.
I feel like it's definitely needs maybe some little tweaking. I like how they are now, but just thinking about playing yesterday during a Xeno threat, we had a fully crewed hammerhead and we were knocking everything out, but we had a retaliator blow us up with a torpedo, which was amazing. I was like, holy crap. This is awesome.
So there's counters possibly, yeah.
There is counters, but I think ships like the Hurricane and stuff, you could still take out, and those turrets do. I think they just need to drop the ammo count just a little bit. You could literally just hold it down and unload,
because you don't
your
miss.
4 guns staggered.
It's got to be one or the other, right? Like they've made it so easy to aim that there's got to be some give probably on the amount of shots that.
There's a slight
when
gimbal to
turrets
them.
are supposed to be. Turrets are supposed to be killing single seat fighters that are attacking larger ships, right? We're killing large ships with turrets. And that's probably not the intention.
With the current turrets we have, you gotta kind of see them as like hard points. I don't think anything we have in the game now should be able to take out, like a hammerhead or something.
Yeah, it should be a combination of things, right?
Yeah. Maybe, because I've been in a Hurricane turret and we've tried to fight a hammerhead in a 890, but we were never the one that got the kill on it. It would be, a Connie or something that comes in with the size 5s. Or I think size 4s gimbaled. But yeah, I think right now turrets, the big thing is they kind of have like a gimbal to them. So you don't have to have the crosshair perfectly on the pipper or whatever.
Yeah, it's very forgiving.
It forgives a little bit too much. So I think if they reduce that just a little bit, that might help. And then also reducing ammo for some of the guns. Because you could put the turret on staggered and that'll help your ammo a little bit. Because, instead of, pumping rounds all the way down while one is firing, the other one has like a slight chance to recharge a round. for the energy weapons, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I did have it
So
on
I think-
staggered. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think firing staggered is what the issue is, because while you're firing one, the other one's recharging. You know, especially for the four gun turrets like the Hurricane and the Hammerhead.
True.
But I mean, maybe that's intentional. Maybe that's intentional by design. But if you look at the other ships like the Gladiator, the Super Hornet and stuff like that, like those turrets with the two
Mhm.
guns, I mean,
The Connie as well.
they'll help out. But yeah, the Connie as well. Yeah,
How many rounds did the Hammerhead's guns have? Do you remember?
300 each, 325, I think,
And
315
those
if I
are
remember.
size 4s, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just silly, I think.
They should bring that down half. And then if someone fires staggered, then they still have to kind of cool down. And the thing is, turrets get a lot of time to cool down too. You know,
True.
because most of the time you're sitting there waiting for them to come into your area of interest, and then you light them up or whatever. You're not dead zone.
True. Sorry for guys if I'm yawning a lot. I had a very, very, very late night of work. So I'm not bored. I'm enjoying my conversation with online. I'm just incredibly tired. But yeah, I think like for me that's like the biggest factor is turrets feel great, but maybe a little bit too great.
Mhm.
I don't know. Anything since it's not a huge subject, is there anything that like comes to mind that you'd also like to touch on?
With the fire stuff coming up, maybe I'm gonna say soon tuning because I don't know when they slate it. I think it's on the roadmap now, isn't it?
I don't know about that.
The fire
Maybe.
stinger sure is, but can you think of anything else they might add in the future other than the fire to kind of get people out of the pilot seat, maybe in these multi-crew ships?
Oh man. I mean, I think the engineering thing has to be something, and they touched on that like last time we saw Dan Truffin, right? He talked about
Mhm.
how it was basically double the time to get that done, and we were already halfway through it at the time, and once we're done with 314, it's more of like a end of 315, early 316 thing is what it sounds like it'll be. That'll definitely be a thing, and engineering obviously ties into fire probably a little bit. But I mean, like for me, the simple things are I don't know, the not having to not being able to wear armor while in a pilot seat and having to like put your stuff away. Like a lot of inventory stuff is more of what would matter to me is like, all right, well, if you're multi-crewing with people, what are you doing? You're like, if this is like a real video game, you're going to be collecting loot and managing it. What are we going to toss out? What are we keeping? What are we going to sell? What are we going to hold? How's our cargo in the back? What do you have to do to manage that during quantum travel or not? Maybe managing the jumps and the plotting the trip that you're making. There could be so many things that can take. The pilot really just needs to pilot at some point, and I don't know if that's exactly what people want either. I don't know.
I think so. I like to relate the multi-crew to games like Sea of Thieves. Was it Pulsar, where you're actually it's
Lost
like a
Colony,
bridge? Yeah, like those games. The multi-crew on them, yeah, you could sit there and control everything, and it's just like the movies, right?
Mhm.
Like, God, what's the movie or the show? I remember The Expanse. You know, when they go in the battle mode, they're strapped down, they're sitting in their seats, they're locked down, they're doing the G's and stuff. And if something goes wrong on the other side of the ship, you know, they can't handle it till after the fight.
Mhm.
But of course, it's a show, so they're making it all dramatic. Like, I gotta go fix that now, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's the magic of multi-crew is you have to get out of your seat and go do something in the back of the ship, because you have your cockpit, but everything is behind you or in front of you or just around you that you got to manage. And that's something I'm excited to see is, maybe it's a fire, maybe there's a hole in the ship or something. Maybe someone got into the ship, so now you got to go get your gun and shoot them out of the ship or something.
Sure. Do you know what they do really well too? Is when you're not in your seat and there's no windows around, the sound on the outside of the ship.
Yeah.
The engines
The audio.
going, the guns hitting it, the shields getting splashed. It's proper. It properly freaks you out, I think.
If you're multi-crew in a Carrack, I ignore the room so much, and I just recently went in the back of the engine room.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap, the audio in that room is amazing when it's moving around.
Now imagine if you had to interact with it, and that's where you hung out. Like, it would be really cool.
You're sitting there welding a pipe shut or something. Yeah.
True. All right, online. I guess we're sort of coming to the end of it. I'm trying to think of what else we could talk about here. It is a small-ish subject.
A small subject for a big deal.
It is. It's a big deal, but it's a small subject, I guess, in terms of conversational topics. I don't know.
There's still a lot they got to do, but we're starting to see a start to it. The ball's rolling in the right direction now. So we're oh my God.
Yeah. I just want to get to the point where it's fun to play together and not have to pretend so much. It's clearly fun to multi-crew and do some things now, but I really am excited for the time in which people want to jump in the game, because there's progress to be made, and it is just as or more viable to do in a multi-crew ship rather than alone, right?
Yeah. The only purpose right now is to find bugs and report them.
Yeah.
Whereas in the future,
that's not
we're
the
actually
purpose
going
I
in.
want to live in.
Yep.
I don't want to be there. But all right, online. I guess we'll let you go. Twitch.tv/online, the same way it's spelled on the screen. Hey now.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I'll be adding you to that New World group today after the podcast. So
awesome.
Keep an eye out, and we'll start figuring out where we're gonna make our home.
Hooray!
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye now. Our last caller of the day, and there's Deja Vu Fan in the sorting room. I see you, but I am incredibly tired, so I apologize. We're gonna leave it with Rain. Rain, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
Good. So, on the subject, you're our last caller. A lot of people have talked at this point.
Yes.
So it is very difficult to be in your position. But what would you like to chat on the subject of the state of multi-crew in 3.14, and we can obviously touch on the future as well.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and I'd like to say hi to Moist. Haven't seen him, Moist Noodle. Haven't seen him forever. I'm gonna say that I genuinely, and this is just my opinion, everybody's welcome to disagree. I genuinely believe, as someone who's been with the project since the Kickstarter, that this is the best that the project's been. I feel the overall space gameplay experience is, to me personally, obviously people are going to disagree, and probably the best state that it's been in. CIG is actively trying to fight any concept of meta, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Actively trying to bring workload to other stations on the ship, especially for multi-crew vessels. Having an engineer that can, direct power for you, having a 2-seat heavy fighter, and being able to share that load. I fly DCS, for example, and having a Rio in the back seat of an F-14 is great, right? To share that workload. And I can see Vanguards and Super Hornets and Hurricanes and anything with a turret gunner, even a Cutlass. Me and a friend of mine were flying a Cutlass Blue the other day, and it was some of the most fun that we'd had in a very long time. And I genuinely do believe that multi-crew is the best it's ever been. I think the space combat gameplay is in the best state it's ever been. I have my issues. I don't like what they've done with ballistics, for example.
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, I actually kind of felt like I might have been alone on that one.
You're not. Even the best
Okay,
pilots
good.
are pissed because they know. At least the reasonable best pilots know that you need targets in order to PvP, and
Yeah.
if your targets are dying in 2.5 seconds, you're never going to have any targets.
I agree. My sort of slight counter to the PvP crowd is, remember, this game isn't made for just you.
Mm-hmm.
It's made for all of us, right?
Absolutely.
So, I know some PvPers get annoyed when I say things like that when we're talking on other Discords and stuff. But it isn't made for just you. It's made for everybody. So I don't want to see them balance the game solely around PvP, but I also don't want to see them balance it solely around PvE either.
Yeah.
But I think the nerf to ballistics, I'm flying my Gladius in, 313 with, that Mantis GT having 400 rounds, and now in the PTU it's got 250, and people are arguing with me on Spectrum in the PTU saying, oh, well, real life aircraft only have 400 rounds of ammo. Yeah, the F-18 Super Hornet has 400 rounds of ammo in its gun. You do realize that your argument just counteracted itself, right? Because this gun on this fighter in the game has less ammo than a real world fighter jet does. So you kind of didn't make a point there. So
and the amount of damage
yeah.
that those rounds do versus the real world aircraft is significantly buffed in the real life than it is in the game. If you put in, how many rounds and shooting with lasers at people, it's not doing as much damage to the ships in our video game than it would in a real life one.
Obviously not. And obviously, again, like you said, being the last caller, I don't really think there's much that I can bring to the conversation that hasn't already been brought. I don't think this is an apocalyptic destruction of the single seat ship. We'll never see them again. This isn't a dig at you, by the way. Please don't take it that way.
Yeah.
But I have seen other people say that. Oh, well, we'll never see single seat fighters ever again. Like, really? Come on, stop being melodramatic.
No, you're going to. I
know.
just think you're not going to see them at all in this patch.
You don't think so?
I don't think you're going to see them as much, because not necessarily because it's an apocalyptic change and I think, like you stated, they're doing their best to remove metas.
Yes.
I think they kind of added one if you have friends.
Yeah, they did. Lasers only. Yeah.
No, I mean multi-crew, like the Hurricane and things like that. I think they've sort of added one if you have a friend to play with. Because turrets are incredibly, incredibly good, right? So
I noticed, yeah.
I am a huge fan, and we talked about this last week with Moist and the Dark Law about loving that they're going, all right, like, let's start at square one. This is how light fighters need to feel. This is how medium fighters need to feel. This is how heavy fighters need to feel. We're going to tweak it until we like it. Then we might add these little intricacies with each weapon and each ship, but everything should feel the same until now. So it's it's one of those things where I agree with you, but then at the same time, I kind of disagree, because of the multi-crew ships specifically, like the Hurricane, do feel very, very strong. And if you're good, they're incredibly strong.
Well, I mean, the Super Hornet right now shreds. From at least my own personal testing and from what I've heard on other Discords.
Not when I'm flying it.
Not when you're flying it.
No.
I've seen some pretty good some content creators on YouTube that have been flying the Super Hornet doing really, really good with it. Comparatively to what it is now, which is, a giant glass cannon.
Yeah.
At least, but I fly a Gladius almost exclusively. That's one of my favorite light fighters in the game. I would say, like, overall, I see where you're coming from, because I think right now it's pushed a meta of multi-crew plus laser weapons.
Sure.
Because there's no reason to bring ballistics to the fight. Like, if you knock a ballistics magazine down 50% and increase its ammo 60%, that's still a net loss. Right?
I think some pilots would disagree with you. I think
you
a
think
lot
so?
of the
Okay.
I know so. I know Moist and some other pilots are saying ballistics are too powerful. That, like, here's the deal. They lowered the rounds, but they did up the damage in which they do. And what ended up happening is is really good pilots with really good aim and really good positional combat are killing other ships and ships that are significantly larger than them within like 2, 3, 4 seconds. I watched Zero State do it. I've watched Moist do it. And the deal with the whole like limited round thing is if you win the fight, you get the reward of being able to reload and do it again, and the other person has to wait for their ship to respawn. So it's there is still a little bit of tweaking I think that needs to be done, but the concept that I think they're going for is what you're talking about, and I think it's well thought out. It's just the implementation isn't perfect yet. Is probably the best way to say it.
Old saying, ideas are irrelevant, implementation is what matters.
True.
And you know, I'm not a great combat pilot. I don't profess to be one. Noodle's one of the best combat pilots I know when it comes to Star Citizen. And I would take his word and words of some of the other aces and stuff like that, obviously over mine. I just say, you know, on sheer feelings, I don't like where ballistics are at all. I just don't. You know, we'll see what happens when it goes to live and any post patches and the rest of the year. But right now I couldn't be happier with where Multicrew is, and you know, having the concept of having somebody in the back seat of a 2-seat fighter, you know, controlling the ship's power systems and controlling the missiles and stuff, and kind of having that Maverick and Goose kind of moment, you know, and hey Maverick, do some of that pilot stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get cussed on your stream. That's why I did.
No, you can. It's I think it comes down to what you started your call with is I think some people are going to be upset, but I think this is the best patch we've had, and it's hard to it's very difficult to disagree with that, especially in the last year.
Horizon's one of the most beautiful places ever.
Stop.
What?
We're not allowed to mention Orison. Okay?
Why not?
Because I have a crappy computer and I can't see how beautiful it is. And when you go there, I have 4 FPS. And when you go there, if you want to leave, it takes 25 minutes to leave.
So when I tell you I was getting 60 FPS today, you're not going to be happy.
You're going to get muted.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But no, I think when it comes down to just you still can't do anything because nothing that you do has the purpose that I feel it needs. But the actions in which you're doing, especially when it comes to combat and being in turrets and some multi-crew stuff, are more fun than they've ever been.
That's true, yeah.
So
I
don't feel that purpose is there in the game yet, and I think they're working their way into it with looting, and we see reputation rewards and Xenothreat, like they're getting there. But it's hard to disagree with you that this is easily the best patch we've had in a year, and 3.15 looks 10 times better. So
I'm really excited for 16 and 17. I mean,
I don't look that far ahead.
Yeah.
I don't look that because I know better. You got your those clouds at Crusader are filled with copium, and I think you're a little high on it. You're a little high on
Mike, again, I kickstarted this thing 10 years ago, so almost 10 now, or no, 10 now, isn't it? Is it 10?
It's 9.
9? 9. Feels like 10.
Almost 10. 2012.
Yeah, I was Mercenary LTI was my Kickstarter, so nothing special.
I got in the day after LTI went away.
Oh, did you?
Yep, the day after LTI is when I signed up. But yeah,
I wholeheartedly admit to rose-colored glasses even all this time later and hopium and copium, because I really think CIG is mastering their tools and their pipeline, and we're seeing things that we've never seen in gaming, and they're pushing our genre in places it's never been pushed. And you know, on this very specific topic of multi-crew, you know, I've had, because I played Elite as well for a little under 500 hours. I'm never going back to that right now. But you know, I've got a lot of people coming from Elite into Star Citizen, and in this patch they're like, you know, sitting in the back seat of a Cutlass or in a turret or in a 2-seat or a multi-crew ship going, can I do anything? I'm like, no, you can get on the guns and do stuff, but right now, no. In the next patch, the answer would be yes. You know, you can give me, I don't need voice attack if I've got you sitting next to me, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm a little concerned about bubble shields. I'm a little concerned about ballistics. I'm a little concerned about, you know, pushing a lasers only meta. But we'll just have to, I don't know. I trust him. I don't know how else to do it all these years later, except to just trust CIG.
I mean, at this point, you can't do anything else. You can't ask for your money back. You can't give up because it still has so much potential. So no matter how much you hate it, you just gotta hope it works out. That's just it.
I do. I had like 4 30Ks today just trying to do some missions. So, I mean, you know, I get frustrated and yell and scream at the game. And, you know, I demand, I want to know things. No, I don't.
It helps.
But I do.
It helps.
It does?
Trust me. Yeah, trust me, it helps.
I'd imagine it would hurt your hand more than the desk.
Sometimes. I thought I broke my hand a couple times. I don't know why. It just helps. It's soothing. Punching your desk is incredibly soothing.
If you say so, I'll have to trust your word on that one.
Yeah. I do not recommend anybody punching their desk. I'm just saying. For me, it's soothing. I'm just saying in my personal experience.
I would also not recommend it.
Yeah. All right. I'm just kidding around. But yeah, I guess, Rain, I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch on, but feel free if you do. If not, let me know. Yeah.
I would just say, you know, obviously we can push CIG hard when they do bad stuff, right? And we should. But I think it's important to praise them when they do good and they do the stuff that we're wanting and hoping that they do. You know, I still want to know why they haven't fixed the freelancers and why the Connie doesn't have a toilet and the table doesn't work and the elevator still kills people. You know, like, why is these things that aren't fixed yet? But, you know, I see the state of the game right now, and I'm looking forward to CitizenCon, and I'm looking forward to the future. Now, I think the last time I was this excited was when 3.0 came out. It's been a long time. So, I don't know. I'm hoping to be positive to everybody and say, look, just, you know, don't have super copium head in the clouds, but I don't know. Let's try to have some positivity and just look forward to the future in the verse, in our great game. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Of course. I don't know if you came to the right place for positivity, but well,
I mean, I know who you are, and I know SaltEMike, right? I know who you are, so I'm a fan. I do sometimes watch your videos, and I'm like, Jesus, Mike, tone it down a little bit.
True.
But I think you're a great content creator, and yeah, I really just appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Rain, have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. So I think that does it for today's show. I didn't think we would have one. I'm not going to lie. I thought we were going to have just me talking on camera. And we finally, as always, got a few people to trickle in and give their thoughts on the subject in which we have today. I'm going to do my best to try and get these subjects out on Saturday. I just need to explain to you guys the situation I'm in with my job. I am super, super fortunate because of you guys that I don't have to work a lot. I work 3 days a week. But on those 3 days that I work, I am in the trenches. I do not pull out my phone. I cannot look at Discord. I have no idea what happened with the Xeno threat event. I have no clue. I am not on planet Earth during those times. And it is a 12+ hour day on all of those days. So the idea of being able to stay on top of this now is actually quite difficult. I had the plan to, as soon as I got to work, throw out the tweet that I put up this morning, to throw out the YouTube message that I put out there this morning about the show, and I was not able to, because the second I got into work, it was, hey, we need you, let's go, and it was go from that point till the end. So it was tough, and yeah. So again, as always, guys, thank you for watching. I'm going to do my best to be my best, but I will apologize. I don't think I have been as much lately, but I'm going to keep trying, and we'll keep going. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, leave a like button. Leave a little like on that button if you are watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, the show will be up later today. I'm going to get it compiled as soon as we end the recording here. Yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and look out for Week in Review tomorrow, where we pile in all of those YouTube videos and Twitch streams and posts and everything from CIG all into one video on Mondays. And yeah, thank you so much for everything, guys, and we'll see you next week.